Hello students, and welcome back to the Lore of the Iron Kingdoms with me, Professor Caster. And for all of us new students out there, this is a lore channel dedicated to reading the lore of the tabletop war game of Warmachine and the role-playing game of the Iron Kingdoms. And after our hiatus of going over the histories of Cygnar and Krix, we are going to get back to our finishing up the Warjacks of the Protectorate of Menoth. And that is just two, I believe. We're just going over the two of their Colossals today. And we're going to be changing up the format slightly just because we are, as mentioned, working on setting up a Patreon page. And one of the benefits of the new Patreon page is going over all of the Mark III to Mark IV changes. However, in this one, we're just going to be going over all their Mark IV stats as per normal. All this will do is just help speed up the readings a little bit and keep this stuff moving so it's more lore based and a little bit less how I believe they will be working on the battlefield and the updates there. But before we begin, thank you guys so much for checking into class today, and if you could, please hit that like button. And please share this with your friends and fellow gamers alike. It does help to keep this channel rolling and helps grow our class size, because the more class size we have, the more questions we get asked in the comments, the more answers we can provide, and the more expanded lore we can get to. And it does help know where we're moving with this channel to keep everything moving smoothly. Also, thank you to Steamforge Games for letting me continue to read this fantastic lore. And without further ado, let's begin. Judicator. To the Soul Menites, the Judicator channels Menoth's wrath by delivering the punishment of fire unto heathens. In support of its holy mission, prayers are inscribed upon each armored plate, upon each fist and flamethrower, and upon every rocket, blessings that help sear judgment into the flesh of the faithless. Its engines and armaments roar to the beat of its steps, and the melodies sung by the great choirs of Menites that follow it into battle. The visions that led to the creation of the Judicator came to the Harbinger of Menoth. In the days after the conquest of Laren, she foresaw a coming conflict wreathed in smoke and fire, with immense machines bearing the banners of the enemies of the faith. Where they clashed, the earth itself was sundered. She knew those machines would exact terrible prices from the faithful should her nation be caught unprepared. At first, the Synod was reluctant to act on her vision, but Hierarch Severus brooked no dissent. Effort to construct the required weapons began at once under the direction of Viscos Arch Razek and his artificers. When Razek concluded that existing facilities were insufficient for the demands of such a tremendous undertaking, the Foundry of the Sacred Flame was conceived. Using the endless resources of Protectorate toil, dedication, and faith, the great edifice was erected from the sands east of Emmer in mere months. The nation spared no expense in its construction, though the lives of many laborers were lost in the rush to completion. The manufacture of the Judicator began even as the first choirs arrived to bless the factory, its laborers, and the product of the great work. The Soul Menite artificers faced numerous challenges in the design of the Judicator, lacking the industrial resources of Cygnar or Kodor, and possessing fewer specialized arcane mechanics. The artificers found themselves unable to create colossal-grade cortexes, similar to that of either nation. They turned instead to their faith prayer for inspiration to craft devices that would channel the power of the Creator into its finest cortex they could produce. As with the Vessel of Judgment, they outfitted the Judicator with a holy reliquary containing the interred remains of a favored priest who had died in battle and whose essence would serve as a reservoir for divine energies. These would be humble servants of the faith whose loyalty to the Creator outlasted death. The mechanical conduit connects the receptacle to the cortex in order to fill the machine with spiritual power and guide its actions in combat. Though the Protectorate still lacked the resources to produce Judicators in great numbers, each can be sent forth to its predestined battles by the guidance of the Harbinger. Their success is seen as proof that Menoth approves such weapons when sent forth on righteous crusades. The Judicator proved too large to be assembled behind closed doors. Even the massive foundry of the Sacred Flame and the artificers moved its final stage of construction outdoors. Under the desert sun, expert mechanics and chanting priests oversaw the assembly as teams of laborjacks operated winches and hoists that lifted the massive limbs and armor plating into place. Choirs gathered to sing benedictions as workers stoked the Judicator's heart fire for the first time, and the great weapon of faith took its first steps. Bearing shoulders filled with dozens of rockets, the Colossal can fire withering barrages without concern for precision. The weapons can reduce entire columns of troops to blasted ruin. The machine sprays Menoth's fury, then to otherwise unassailable trenches, and use the mighty fists to crush those few who survive. If innocent perish amid the Judicator's unleashed wrath, they will find solace serving Menoth in the city of man. Those who follow the machine into battle fearlessly chant and pray their devotion, knowing they will walk in the footsteps of their God's will. Well, I suppose, very much like Menoth's followers with the Protectorate, if you die and it's caused by the Protectorate, then don't worry, your soul will be saved because you were killed by a holy zealot, and that makes it okay. But the Protectorate, are known to torture and burn their own people, as well as their perceived enemies in the rest of the Iron Kingdoms. But these things are ginormous, shooting out a bunch of inaccurate, probably more accurate now after the taking of Lael. But let's read some stat boxes here, just because I love reading these. Its initial service date 608 AR. Its height is 34 feet tall. He is a ginormous warjack. Its weight 75 tons. Fuel load 1,984 pounds. General use good for 6 hours. Combat use 50 minutes. This guy burns through gas insanely quickly. Its armaments include dual rocket pods and dual flamethrowers. And its cortex was manufactured, of course, by the vassals of Menoth. So yeah, this guy is ginormous like every other Colossal. He is huge because when you're taking on other huge Colossals or Gargantuans, you want to always go in prepared because, trying to take those guys down with that one can be kind of a pain if you do not have the resources to be able to really focus on it. But let's read here their Mark IV stats and see how good this guy actually is. Alrighty, the Judicator. Point cost 30, very expensive. Field allowance 2. Health boxes, he has 60. His ability, he has Breakthrough, Slam, Trample, Pathfinder, Headbutt, Dual Attack, and he is a Construct, so nothing much changed there. Speed 5, Mat 6, Rat 5, Defense 8, because most Colossals usually do not have good defense. And Armor 19, which is pretty bulky. He has Bulldoze, so when he knocks into somebody, he can push them back. When this model is base to base with an enemy model during its normal movement, it can push that model 2 inches directly away from it. A model can be pushed by Bulldoze only once per turn. Bulldoze has no effect when this model makes a trample power attack because he is, of course, running it over with trample attacks. Then his second ability is Relic. This model gains an additional die on attack damage rolls. Discard the lowest die for each roll. When its S system is disabled, this model loses the benefits of Relic. So that actually is hecka good, because then it's basically giving himself signs importance, so he can just stack his ability to hit things. So that actually explains why his rat is only 5 when he has so many rocket pods. But having that additional attack die and removing the lowest one, that is a super useful ability and makes him even more dangerous. But let's go over his weapons here. He has 2 rocket pods. Both these are a Rat 5, a range 13, so pretty far. Ready to fire 1 each, so he can shoot 2 of those. AoE 3, so he can hit the model directly hit, plus 3 models within 3 inches of it. Power 14-8, so it's pretty decent on the damage, which is great, especially at range 13. If you can increase that range, you can really, start taking out back end models. That's actually really solid, and I appreciate the change of the AoE. I feel like that allows him to hit a little bit more than you would normally hit with a standard AoE, because this pops it up almost to a 6-inch AoE on those, in retrospect. He has 2 flamethrowers on this as well, because why not have additional stuff? And he is a Protectorate Warjack, and if they don't have something that can catch something on fire, are they really a Protectorate Warjack? Questions there. Rat 5, spray 10, so good distance on the spray, and with the new Mark IV changes on spray templates, you can actually increase or decrease the range of these, depending on if it's a pro or negative spell. Rate of fire 1 each, so he can shoot 2 of these. He has Gunfighter, which means he can shoot this into models he's in with he's within melee with. Unlike the rocket pods, where he would get a negative bonus with his flamethrower, he does not get that negative bonus if he's in melee with that model he's shooting. It is a fire damage, and it does cause fire continuous effect, and it is a POW 12, like most flame weapons. And if you put him with that other Warjack that makes fire around him even hotter, you can get this guy rolling on all fours. So yeah, he is a beast with that as well. And his fists are a Mat 6, range 2, POW 21, and their fist weapons, so he can pick up things and chuck them as well. I think what makes this guy one of the better Colossals is his reliquary, because being able to give yourself an additional die on all attack damage rolls, this guy is getting himself up to some heavy damage. Mild update here, I did read reliquary wrong, because it says they gain an additional die on attack damage rolls, not just attack rolls. Sorry about that. My dyslexia likes to kick in every now and then. But unlike hitting better, he is damaging better. So that's even better in the long run, which I feel like that is still one of his strongest abilities, because having 3 dice on it, then you can really fish for as many high damage power attacks as you can, and you can boost that on top of it, so you can get 4 dice and clear out the lowest one. That is always a very useful thing, and it requires a lot less focus for him to have to use in the long term, so he is very self-sufficient. And for anybody who has to run Warjacks and Warcasters at the same time, having a Warjack that you don't have to force feed focus is always super useful. But let's move on. Revelator. To face the Revelator is to be stripped of pretense and laid bare before the fires of judgment. In its presence, the flames of an angry god refuses to wane, persisting to cleanse the world. The screams of the guilty serve as litanies, and the crackle and hiss of their flesh an enduring choir. For those who have turned aside from the Creator, this Colossal represents the inevitable termination of tragic and misguided lives. The Protectorate have once shouldered the burdens demanded by its faith to outpace the industry of larger nations through sheer will and determination. Forged in the fires of faith and empowered by some of the nation's holiest relics, the fires of this new Colossal burn brightly. Each Revelator contains a furatory within which is sealed a precious fragment of the shattered altar removed from the first great temple of Glacia, where priest King Valent the Thrace brought the word of the Creator to his congregation. Previously, the remnants of that altar had been preserved within the great temple of the Creator in Sol. The Viscos decided such relics would be better employed in active service, bringing their holy power to the front line of the crusade through these towering machines. Just as the Judicator harnessed the holiness of sacred remains, the Revelator harvests the concentrated faith and sanctity of ancient artifacts to spectacular effect. Through the holy power accumulated in its furatory, the Revelator renders all heathens' attempts at concealment futile. The pious believe this power is a gift from the heroes of faith watching from Arcane. Hidden foes seen by the Revelator can be revealed to Menoth's Crusader through a pair of Lightbringers cannons, as any that survive direct fire are emblazoned with holy illumination, marking them for destruction. Each of these blessed cannons is painstakingly engraved and appointed with hundreds of hours of intense prayer by novice and initiate priests, led by those who supervise the cleansing of all mechanica that is produced by the Solminite artificers. Once transgressors have fallen beneath its all-seeing gaze, the Revelator unleashes the fury of its conflagrator cannons, each firing ordnances containing refined Menoth's fury. Before being encased in the ammunition, the volatile substance is treated with thickening agents, allowing it to burn for longer periods of time once set alight. Enemies of the faith who meet the Colossal in battle are awestruck at the sight of its holy wrath, though such enemies persist as little more than ashes on the wind. So this guy is definitely more of a fire starter than his flamethrower cousin, brother, whatever you want to call it. And I find it interesting that this guy, instead of using bodies of priests, he uses artifacts from the holy order, which it really does say how much they saturate all their stuff with the holy faith of the Protectorate of Menoth. So, and if anything, he still is technically, Menoth is still technically the god who created humans. So, like, he is a very real being in this. It's not just, you know where we are. But let's read his Mark IV stats and see how much more dangerous this guy is in Mark IV. Alrighty, it looks like we have 28 points. He's a little cheaper than the Judicator. He has a field allowance 2, so you can have 2 of these guys. Still health box 60. Still has breakthrough, trample, slam, pathfinder, headbutt. He still has dual attack, and he is still a construct. His abilities still include bulldoze. So when this model is base to base with an enemy model during its normal movement, it can push that model up to 2 inches directly away from it. A model can only be pushed by bulldoze once per turn. Bulldoze has no effect when this model is making a trample power attack. And then his second ability is Feretory, or Feretory, F-E-R-E-T-O-R-Y. If you guys know how to pronounce this, please explain it down in the comments below, because we all know I'm really good at mispronouncing a lot of things. But what this ability does is this model ignores concealment and stealth. Additionally, this model's weapons gain damage type magical. While its S system is disabled, it loses the benefit of Feretory. Alright, so this guy ignores concealment and stealth, which makes him crazy good. Now, he does not ignore cover, unfortunately, but he does ignore concealment and stealth, so he looks through clouds. Well, not through clouds, but he looks into clouds without having any kind of problem, and he can pick out, models that like to be hidden in the realm of that setup. But let's check out his weapons to see how he uses this to his advantage. So his first weapon, ranged, conflagrators. He has 2 of them. He has a rat of 5, range of 10, rate of fire 1. Since he has 2, he's going to be shooting twice. He has the fire damage, and it has the critical fire effect. So if he gets a crit, it will stay on your opponent. And it's a power of 15, which is hard hitting. This guy will actually damage heavy warjacks as well. Unlike a lot of other more light arms fire, this actually can do some real solid damage. This one has a special ability on it. So it has Eruption of Ash. On a direct hit, when a model is boxed by this attack made with this weapon, center a 3-inch cloud template on the boxed model and then remove it from play. The template is a hazard that remains in play for 1 round. Enemy models entering or ending their activation in the AoE suffer a POW 12 damage roll. Well, at least it doesn't cause them to catch on fire, but having the ability to leave a POW 12 damage roll anywhere without having to roll to hit is always a very useful, and it actually can help a lot more board control as well. So yeah, very useful. And at a POW 15, he's probably going to kill like whatever he shoots if it's just like a small base model, because even with armor and stuff like that on small base models, or even medium base models, that's still a POW 15. So that's gonna do something. Now, Rat 5, is he going to hit super dodgy? Probably not super often, but there's probably ways to make that work. Let's move on to his second range weapon. He has 2 Lightbringers. So they are a Rat 5, range 14, much farther range than his other weapon. Rate of fire 1, fire attack, and it's a POW 12. Does not cause fire continuous effect, unfortunately, but he does have flare on it. So on a direct hit, models hit by this attack lose stealth and suffer -2 defense for 1 turn. Now this is phenomenal because it removes stealth, and anytime you can remove stealth, especially from 14 inches away, that is remarkably nice, and lowers defense by 2. That is worth its weight in gold, especially on very dodgy targets. Because if you can get their defense down just a little bit, it's always going to be to your advantage. And as somebody who plays Retribution in the Elves, especially the Mage Hunter Elves, where all of my guys have stealth, this would destroy pretty much all of them. So yeah, having the ability to remove stealth is phenomenal. But he does have 2 fists as well. It is a Mat 6, range 2, and POW 21, and they are open fist weapons, so he can pick up, throw, and do all the fun stuff that you normally be able to do with the open fist icon. So yes, this guy does have more ranged weapons. Now, he doesn't have any AoE weapons, unfortunately, but he is a very, very much a guy that you want to get on your team if you're going up against a very dodgy and or stealthy type of army, because, well, he can see them, and then he can allow his other guys to see them too. So if you're running like a very heavy ranged army against an army like that, this guy is worth his weight in gold, and he's a Colossus too, which means he's going to look over most people. And he's probably going to be a target of most people, because Colossals are always the target of everybody. But yes, in those bigger battles where you want to start clearing out stealth models, this is your guy to have. But that looks like everything we are going to be going over today. That finishes up all of the Warjacks of Menoth. Next week, we're going to start looking over more of the rank and file guys for both the Trollbloods and the Protectorate of Menoth as well. We're going to be sticking to this format where I'm just reading Mark 4. Just because, well, Mark 3's been gone for a while, and we're in Mark 4, so you've probably already seen all the Mark 4 changes anyway, so it doesn't seem as relevant now as it did a year ago. Thank you guys so much if you did stick around to the end of class. If you could, please hit that like button. Please share this with your friends and fellow gamers. Please comment down below. Let me know all the stuff that I mispronounce, because we do mispronounce quite a bit. And any of your comments do help with the real gods of this, being the YouTube algorithm, and helps us spread the word about this fantastic lore channel, and does help the class size grow, and that's exactly what we need to do to keep this Steam train rolling. Also, another huge thank you to Steamforge Games for letting me continue to read this fantastic lore. And without further ado, class dismissed.